It is our honor, is it not, to open this 50-hour vigil starting right now with the stories. And we will see you on Wednesday morning, Mary and I, to tell you how we did. Thank you to everyone in advance. If you can help us raise money and match this, we'd be so very grateful. But Mary, we'll see everyone on Wednesday. And
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We are live. So tell us your name.
My name is Angela Hoffland.
And you took 2 shots. Why did you do that?
2 Pfizer vaccines.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the fear and, living life. I was one of the early ones because my husband was in the military. So
what part of the military is your husband in?
He was in the Army. He just retired last year.
So would it be fair to say that you guys are pretty pro-vaccine? Why would you not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have children?
We were, 3 children.
How old are they?
10, 9, and 6.
And are they all vaccinated?
My 6-year-old is not fully vaccinated because of this.
Right. So you go and you have your first Pfizer. Where do you have that done?
At the military facility, Womack Army Medical Center.
Okay, and how did you feel after your first Pfizer?
Very odd. I actually did have a reaction. I had an escalated heart rate about a minute or 2 right away post-vaccine, and I actually tried to flag down the medic that was there, and he was about 5 cars ahead of me, and I was fearful in getting the vaccine even the first time, so I thought it was in my head, and I used some breathing techniques to calm myself down and to stabilize and try to lower my heart rate. And by the time he got back to me, I felt okay, but I said, I was nervous, and I thought that I was having had a reaction, and he was like, just take some Benadryl, you'll be okay once you get home. And even the drive home, I called my husband and I said, I'm worried I had some sort of reaction and that I had some sort of anaphylaxis, because even my throat felt scratchy and felt just different. And then my mom happened to be visiting because my son's birthday is right around the time that I got my first vaccine. And I remember saying to her, please don't leave yet. I'm worried that I'm going to have the same reaction I did the last time. And I didn't feel, I had the typical reaction of most people after the Pfizer or any vaccine. You feel crummy for a few days, the site's sore. And I had all that. And then I wound up feeling somewhat okay. But I was really terrified to go get that second vaccine because of how I felt after the first one. And she happened to be leaving that day. And I said, please don't leave, or wait another day. And, but she wound up saying, you're going to be fine. Take a Benadryl before you go. You're going to be okay. And my husband actually said, the Army treats us like pincushions anyway. What harm is it really going to do? What's the worst it could do? You already had one. I'm going to go with you. I made him come with me. And then I went with him driving, got the second one, and I told the physician, I actually have the form with me. I didn't fill out, I didn't check off the box or one of the boxes that said, do you want to talk to somebody? Because I did want to talk to him. And I said, I had this reaction prior. What should I do? Should I still get it? And he said, yes, still get it. I'm glad you took a Benadryl. You're going to wait for 30 extra minutes.
So still get the shot, even though it made you ill. Take the Benadryl and just hang around here a little longer.
Yes, and wait.
Unbelievable.
So I did that, and about this was April 8th, 2021, and on the 17th of April 2021, I felt like I pulled a rib and just overall kind of unwell, shaky, weak, uneasy. And I was very fit and active, and it was during, like, I started to do a workout, and I was like, oh, I can't do any of this workout because I feel like I'm kind of breathing heavily, and I felt like I pulled a rib. This was, I think, a Friday, and then everything's closed except for the ER. You know, you're a mom of 3 children. My husband was away at training at the time, and literally for training for 2 months he was away, and this was like week 2 into it. So as moms do, I brushed it aside, took some ibuprofen, and waited. And I waited. Saturday night, I started to feel it more and more like a pulled rib or pulled muscle, and then it started to spread up my back. And then from there, Sunday got worse. And Monday, I called to schedule with my PCM to see what's going on, like maybe get physical therapy or something, because I felt like it was getting worse. But by Monday night, I couldn't even lay flat. And it felt like there was a sludge in my lung, and I couldn't breathe. My lips were turning purple. And the next day, my mom was like, you need to get in. So I got in to my PCM, and he said, go in for a chest x-ray. He's like, everything sounds fine, your pulse is fine, your oxygen levels are fine. But I was like, something's really wrong. Like, I don't come in for pain like this. And I went and got the chest x-ray, and then went and picked up my kids from a friend's house because she had to watch them while I went and got the chest x-ray. I got home from the chest x-ray, and it was after dinner time at this point, and my PCM called me and was like, you need to go right now to get a CT scan done. And I said, all right, listen, I just picked up my 3 young children, like, we're gonna have dinner, my husband's away, what are we really talking here? Like, what's the worst case scenario? Because I figured worst case scenario would probably be like a collapsed lung, maybe. And he's like, well, best case scenario, it's a collapsed lung. Worst case scenario, and why it's an emergency situation, why you have to go immediately, is because I think it's a pulmonary embolism. And I was like, what the heck is that? Really? Because I was like, okay. And then I had to look it up. I shouldn't have looked it up. And then I had another friend take my children, because it was already in the evening by now, and went in for the CT scan. The radiologist on staff also did not have the best bedside manner. I had asked her, how would you handle this if this was your child, like, saying to you, like, what do I do? Because I didn't really even know what it was. I didn't know what it was from or how, like, anything. And she was like, well, it's bad, but it could be really bad. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I suggest you go back over to the ER and we get this handled right away to get you on blood thinners, and, you know, then set up follow-ups with our pulmonologist, because if you're not actually dying, they don't need to keep you in the emergency room or, you know, bring you into the hospital. So I wound up going home that evening about 2 a.m. in the morning, and being in complete shock. My husband was already on his way home from training, because he was like, I have to go. Like, my wife, we don't even know, like, what's going on. He didn't know what a pulmonary embolism was. And he got home, and I couldn't sleep sitting or laying down for about 4 months because the pain was so severe, and I had such a large infarct. And an infarct is when the embolism blocks off a specific part of your lung and literally cuts off any oxygen to it. And the chest cavity was filling, the pain that I was feeling was the infarct, and it was filling my chest cavity with blood. So I lost about that day from that, about 1/5 of my lung. And clearly that's because of the Pfizer vaccine, and it was 9 days later. And I'm still told to this day that there's not really proof that it was an unprovoked, because I had nothing else that would connect me to having a pulmonary embolism. Not on birth control, not no travel, no sitting. I don't have a sedentary lifestyle, no smoking. I mean, not a smoker, not a heavy drinker. Like, all of these things, I
So
checked
what's
none
all
of
this
the
here?
boxes.
Have you got things to show us?
I do have a few things to show you, because I know that you know this. This is the part of my lung. This is the right side. So you're looking at me laying this way. And this is the bottom of my lung that is filled with blood. That's the day. Yeah. It actually got a little worse before it got better. But this is actually pulled from the x-ray or the CT scans from that date. And I have those with me also. But I did a major, I'm sure you know of the program, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. They sent me, so I submitted my injury for the COVID vaccine on May 10th of 2021. And saying, like, this was, I could have lost my life. I have 3 young children, and I've been struggling ever since. I still have weekly basis of escalated heart rate out of nowhere. I have breathlessness. I have all these things now going on, and the symptoms are continuing to this day. But I, that day, let's see, I reported May 10th. They got back to me and said they had 2 boxes you could check. You will provide additional paperwork within the next 60 days, or that there was a box to select. I no longer am interested in, seeking compensation. Basically, so people will go, phew, I'm done with that, like, I'm in give up. But I didn't give up, and I sent up all this paperwork in. But that was August 1st of 2023. That's how long it took them to get back to me, even for a compensation report. And I have to prove to them that it was caused by the vaccine.
And how are you going to do that?
So I pulled my medical records in June, and I have numerous specialists who have made note that yes, it is in relation, or not, yes, it is in relation, but they have noted that the COVID vaccine was 9 days prior to my PE, and then this spiral of all these autoimmune things that have been happening. I had a PET scan in July of this year, and this is, so me laying this way on a table, this is how much of my lung, the base of my lung is gone, because I also, in February of 2022, clotted again on blood thinners. So, and then since then, I've also had a myriad of other things happen just spontaneously. In April and May of this year, my left leg just blew up, and I got severe pain in my knee and hip, and went to the ER. They basically were like, we don't know, we think it's autoimmune. They said, here, take some ibuprofen. And then the very next week, actually like 3 days later, I went to the ER again after seeing my PCM both times. And they did all the necessary stuff, like the CT from my abdomen down, because they have to rule out that it's not a blood clot. But they wouldn't know anyway, because I'm on blood thinners to, the level that you would need to treat someone that has consistent blood clots. But since then, I've had excruciating knee, shoulder, and ankle pain to the point where I can't walk some days. I can't play with my kids. I was before a very active mother. I used to play with her children. And that's the hardest part, because I just watched them play with their dad. And I used to be there and involved and play baseball and play softball. And as I said in my paper here, I used to ride the waves with my kids. And this summer I couldn't even do it. And because I live every day knowing, and well, every time that I see a specialist or see someone new in the health or medical field that acts as if they're trying to help me and figure this out, they just push me off to the next person. And I've already reclotted once while on blood thinners, and I do look at my children and I wonder, like, I've survived twice. The statistics are there when people have blood clots, and 1 out of 4 people, their first symptom when they have a pulmonary embolism is death. There's no other symptom. I'm thankful that I had a symptom with the first one. With the second one, I didn't. And I just was doing a routine follow-up when I found out that I had this new clot. And I just want to find someone that will help me get well and try to live the best life that I can with my family and my children. But going through daily pain, like what I've been dealing with the past 6 months plus, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm 43 years old, and I need to play with my children, and I want to meet my grandchildren, and I want to see my kids get married, and I don't know if this blood thinner is going to work, because it is just another drug created by Pfizer. So, I made my report. I reported to, I gave you my timeline, or at least Liza has it. I reported to VAERS right away in May. And again, you're just it feels like you're just a number, and it's just a data collection. It's not even a follow-up to, see if you're okay. I thankfully do have another family friend who, funny enough, was a colleague of Fauci's back when they worked on coronaviruses, and I'm going to give you his letter on my behalf because he does not believe in this COVID mRNA vaccination. He's a brilliant man. He's a neurologist and immunologist, and he wrote a letter to CICP on my behalf. But my bottom line is, they get to judge. They get to judge whether or not I receive compensation. I mean, be it 10, 20 years down the road, probably. Or whether I'm just, this is my new normal, and this is what I have to fight every day. So, that's pretty much most of my story.
Thank you for telling your story. I'm glad you're alive.
Thank you.
And I'm not putting
glad
a
I'm alive
picture.
too. I do celebrate that every day.
And I know that people watching, if they can help, will help. They will contact us.
Thank
and
you.
will help.
Yes. I saw a doctor on here that Irene begins with an M. Is her last name, Dr. Irene. I watched one of her videos, and she was injured by the flu vaccine, and I was like, I feel like this lady could really help me. Yeah. So if you're watching,
If anybody can help, if anyone can help, do reach out.
Yes, please.
Let's go. Have you written your name on the bus yet?
I have not.
We're going to go and do that.
Okay.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
Trust your gut. Know that your intuition is right. And even when so many people are trying to talk you into something you don't really want to do, go with your gut. Don't do this, because it's a battle I have internally also with myself.
Yeah.
Because I defied myself and my own beliefs, and that's an internal battle that I have to have with myself, because I didn't listen to my intuition and I kind of pushed past it, and I will never forgive myself for that. So
Does your husband understand now? Does he understand the danger of these things?
yes, yeah, but he is also very optimistic and positive, and I'm also, or I try to be optimistic, but it's very scary.
But we're done vaccinating.
Oh, I'm not
Your
vaccinating
children?
anyone.
Done.
Yes. No, we're done. Yeah. Yeah. From what I've learned through all of this is, wow. And all these signatures on the bus, walking around, I'm going to take some video as I go around too. But
Thank you so much.
thank you.
My name's Christina Mitchell.
And this is a story about your mum.
Yes.
One Moderna shot killed her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any brothers and sisters before we talk about this?
Yes, I have a brother.
Okay. And was it really you that was part of this? Is he not here today because he doesn't live here? Or
No, he doesn't live here. My family's from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm living here in North Carolina.
And so it happened in Santa Fe?
Santa Fe.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about, why did your mum take a COVID shot?
So my mom had been suffering from an autoimmune disease called scleroderma, and she had recently been diagnosed in May of 2021. And
Do you know what is that? Well, I've never heard of it. Scleroderma?
Scleroderma. It's a autoimmune disease that causes your skin to thicken and your organs, internal organs, which I believe was brought on by the flu vaccine, the shingles, and the Tdap, which she got in 2020 prior to her being diagnosed with this autoimmune. She was pretty much healthy before 2021. But after she took those 3 shots, she became extremely ill, and she was suffering, and doctors didn't know what was going on with her. And she was sick all through 2021. She was in and out of the hospital.
What kind of symptoms was she in hospital with?
Shortness of breath, and I think heart problems.
Wow. And so she had the Moderna on top of knowing that they gave it to her, knowing that she had heart problems and shortness of breath.
Yes, and the illness, the autoimmune disease.
And was it her doctor, or was it just a random that gave it to her?
I don't know, because I wasn't there, but I believe it was her rheumatologist who was advising all her patients that they needed to be vaccinated if they wanted to be seen in her office.
With the COVID shot.
Yes.
So she has this Moderna, and what happens afterwards?
So it was maybe 7 days later that she ended up back in the hospital. I believe she was having shortness of breath and maybe flu-like symptoms. I don't really know, because my family really wasn't communicating with me very well, because I'm so far away, and she couldn't communicate, so nobody was really reaching out to me. I was trying to get information, but all I knew was that my mom was sick. And I didn't know then that she had taken the Moderna because I was totally against it. And nobody wanted to discuss it with me. And so she was in the hospital for 7 days. They let her out. She was out for maybe a week or two. She ended up back in the hospital. And after that, she never came out.
Did you get to go see her before she died?
Yes. I had to fly back out. I had to fly back out there to see her. And she was already on a CPAP and morphine. And I believe they were also treating her with the hospital protocols.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And the nurse didn't want to tell me what medications they had put her on. But I knew what was going on. And I was questioning them, and they didn't want to answer my questions. I was in the hospital with her. I had to leave. That night, we got a phone call about midnight. It was the hospital saying that they had to ventilate her, that she had aspirated and they had to ventilate her, and that she was on a ventilator for 15 days. And it was the most horrific 15 days of my life.
Sorry. Were you with her when she passed? Do you know what was written on the death certificate?
They put it was from her illness, scleroderma, and I think, what was it? They didn't put COVID or anything related, but it was acute respiratory distress syndrome.
And she'd only had one Moderna.
Yes.
So interesting.
Yes.
So she is technically classed as unvaccinated.
Correct. And New Mexico, they were really pushing the vaccine. They were being really pushy out there, especially the hospitals, the doctor's offices. They didn't want to see you in their office if you weren't wearing a mask or vaccinated. I even got kicked out of a doctor's office because I refused to wear a mask, and they kicked me out.
Can I see a picture? Can we see a picture of your mum? How old was she when she passed?
She had just turned 55.
I don't know if everyone can see that. There you go. Very beautiful lady. Tragic. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, Claire will take some proper photos of that. And we're really sorry that this happened to your mum. It's tragic. Is there anything else you want to tell the people?
No, just that these vaccines are destroying people's lives, and people are just unaware of what is actually happening, and they're just accepting it. Yeah. And it's hard for me to accept it because I know. And I tried to warn her, and I tried to warn my family, and they kind of turned against me when all of this happened. So my husband was very supportive. He was there with me the whole time, but he had to be with my son, so he couldn't really come into the hospital with me. But we had to take my mom off the ventilator and watch her die.
I'm sorry.
And it was the most horrific thing I've ever experienced in my whole life.
Sorry. Thank you.
But I had to be brave and speak out for her because I'm her daughter, and she would have been really proud of me.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful community you have here, of wonderful people. I hope you know some of these people, do you?
No.
Well, that's going to change.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to need to get some support. We'll get you some support.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're so sorry. We're going to put a picture of your mum on the bus.
Okay.
And we'll sign her name.
Thank you.
that's the sad thing. He had been having the night shift, and Bud and Rory always met early in the morning, like 7 o'clock, for Bible study and coffee, and he'd been up that whole night because he was working. He had no sleep time. So Bud said, and we said, well, Rory, get some good sleep tonight, and Bud will be over, Dad will be over later rather than 7. So the sad thing is nobody was there, and it was 7 o'clock or so when he had his reaction, and by 7:40 he was gone.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm here with Linda and Bud Lynn, and sometimes the bus can't get to everybody. And so we're going to do this story right now because it's extremely important to you all listen to Linda and Bud, who are going to give you a dire warning of something that is just nothing short of barbaric that happened to their amazing, beautiful son. So thank you for being here, both of you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Well, now let's talk about what happened. Who would like to start on this story? Let's go back to what happened and why he even took the shot in the first place.
Well, it's hard to explain because we're going through so much grief, and we still are. It's been about 1.5 years that he passed, but he's a big, beautiful boy that was a Marine Corps veteran, is a Marine Corps veteran, and he served his country for Iraqi freedom. And he was only 41 when he passed, but we raised him. He has a brother, and we worked with him so much over the years. He had some PTSD that he had when he got out of the Marine Corps, and he had a tough time. So he had to see the VA a lot. So he was in VA hospitals at different times. But he was also very intelligent, and he also had a couple of degrees actually. One in engineering, the other one was in biology, clinical biology, and he was working at the end. Toward the end of his life, he was working as a lab tech at our local Cox Regional Hospital here. And he enjoyed that job. He enjoyed it so much. He enjoyed it to the point that he wanted to be used by Christ. He wanted to be used by God. He wanted to serve.
He was recently ordained.
Right, and so he did that very well. Everyone that he saw and everyone that he was around, in his work and in his time when he was with friends and family, he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that that was his purpose. That's what he did. He wanted to try to help serve people. He truly did, and he worked so hard at it.
So about 3 years ago, he went into the Fayetteville VA hospital for PTSD. And the doctors were always amazed at Rory because one of them in particular would always say, young man, what are you doing in here? You don't need to be in here. Look at you. Big, tall, beautiful, healthy, blonde-haired, blue-eyed doll. But he did have PTSD. 6 years ago, he was going to college, and his teacher told him, you don't look good. You need to go to ER. So he did, and he was having a pulmonary embolism, and we almost lost him at that time 6 or 7 years ago. So when he went to the VA, we were his temporary guardians. We told the doctors, every one of them, through phone calls and texts and messages and visitations, don't give him any vaccine because he has factor 2 blood clotting disorder. Don't give him any. And since we were temporary guardians, they were supposed to abide by that. When he got out, we found out he got the first one, Moderna, and then 30 days later, because he was in there 30 days, they gave him the second one, Moderna, before they let him out. We found that out and tried to get a hold of doctors and the people that really know how to offset or try to offset the side effects of the vaccine. Then a year went by, and he was just getting his lab tech degree and working here at the hospital, and they talked him into getting the booster. And all along I said, Rory, remember, don't get the booster. And for some reason, we don't know if it was pressure there, because at the hospital, I've talked to plenty of people there, and they said there you are very much forced to get the vaccine through to the booster. And so 2 months later, he died instantly, and they said it was pulmonary embolism.
Well, his heart stopped.
Heart stop. One thing
so-
happens to the other.
So-
So do you know if the booster was another Moderna?
Yes, it was Moderna, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Mhm.
So we had 3 Moderna
Mhm.
Yeah.
COVID
Yes.
shots. All right. And did he, after each Moderna, did he feel unwell, or did he seemingly feel okay?
Well, a lot of times he didn't show any signs of any effects because he had a lot of pain. He had some kind of pain from his medication, I think brings on pain, but he didn't have any acute symptoms that we can tell, that we didn't live with him. He lived down the road in a condo. So when we saw him almost every day, except he was in school too, but I wouldn't say no. I don't know that he had any symptoms to say, hey, I shouldn't get that one again because this one caused this problem. That didn't occur to. He didn't say anything like that.
Yeah, he was a big, strong guy, a big, strong Marine, and he just took it in, just like he did when he was serving. So
Yeah, because in the military they get a lot of shots anyway. So, so it was 2 weeks after the booster that he passed away.
2 months.
2 months.
Mhm.
Okay. And in those 2 months, did you see any signs that he was unwell then? Was he breathing in a strange way or doing anything?
He always did have a little trouble breathing, catching his breath. He always had that problem. I don't know if it was before the pulmonary embolism initially, but he did have that problem along the way. But, we didn't recognize, other than the fact when we found out that he had the final booster, every doctor that we go to, Christian doctors and specialists, said the booster was what did it, most likely because of the extreme inflammation. Factor 2 is a blood clotting disorder. And we found out Bud has factor 2 and I have factor 5. So we knew we couldn't get the booster, or we couldn't get the vaccines. Our doctor said, if you do, you'll be dead in 3 years. And we've seen that happen with so many people. So,
I mean, he should never have been given it. I mean, is there anything, have you been back to the doctors that gave him or said that it was okay for him? I mean, really, this is a crime.
it is a crime. We contacted the VA, no response, none at all. We did call, I was calling the lab where he worked, and some of the people right after Rory died left. They aren't there. I couldn't contact his officer or the person that was ahead of him. So we never did find out who to talk to. But we've been to City Hall and we've taken big collages of pictures of Rory and said, this is what will happen if you don't stop these vaccines, because they were really pushing it in Branson.
well, another thing too is, Holly, we've never had the vaccine ourselves, and we realized that we've had some blood disorders. Linda has a factor 5 disorder, and I have factor 2. And so I passed that factor 2 on to Rory. And the doctors, all of our doctors have told us that if we get the vaccine, well, we won't be here in a short period of time. But we tried to pass that along to our son too. But he was big and strong, and he felt like that he could go ahead and do what he was supposed to do. And
He wanted to please his peers and his boss.
Yeah.
He was a good-looking sweetheart people pleaser is what he was.
he wanted to do his job, and he enjoyed the job that he had, and he really worked at it. So
Now, where did he live? Did he live with you or did he live somewhere else?
He lives in a little bit down our lane here in Branson West. We're in a kind of a tourist community here, and there's a lot of condos, and he bought a condo when he got out of the service.
well, we're out in the woods here. We're out on a 15-acre property here that's surrounded by woods. But he lived just down the road from us. We were the first to build back here back in 1978. But he lived in a condo that's just down the road from us, and he enjoyed that.
It's about
So,
4 blocks, Polly.
Right. So was he on his own when he passed away?
That's the sad thing, because
Yeah.
he had been having the night shift, and Bud and Rory always met early in the morning, like 7 o'clock for Bible study and coffee, And so the night before, we'd gone to a Branson show, and he'd been up that whole night because he was working. He had no sleep time. So Bud said, and we said, well, Rory, get some good sleep tonight, and Bud'll be over, Dad'll be over later rather than 7. So the sad thing is nobody was there, and it was 7 o'clock or so when he had his reaction, and by 7:40 he was gone.
Well, I blame myself a lot because if I was usually over there really, really early, and we had a good time and had coffee and read scriptures and talked about it a lot, and that was our time that we had together early. But I wanted him to have some time to rest, and of course I wanted some time to rest, so I did. So I didn't get the call till 7:30 in the morning, and they told us that he had passed. So.
And who's they? Who found him?
It was actually he actually called the EMTs himself because he knew he was having a problem.
Well, he said, I'm having an allergic reaction, is what he said.
Well, that's what he told them.
What he thought.
But he was a big old strong guy, so it probably took him a while before he decided he wanted to call anyway. But they had to break the door down because it was locked, because apparently he had passed out before they could get to the door, or he could open the door. It was actually the police officer that told me. Police officer told me that he had passed. And they worked on him at 27 minutes with CPR.
He was already gone.
That's what they said.
So it's been a nightmare. It's been a very much of a nightmare, and only those who have ever had to go through something like this, we're finding out that it's some kind of a fraternity that you don't want to be a part of. That's for sure. It's difficult, very difficult.
Terrific for you.
We've been with Dr. Lee Levitt and her team, and trying to promote this on podcast about all this. So we're not silent at all.
I can see that.
We want something. And there's so much to what Rory could have done in this life, because he was on a mission. He was on a high. He was extremely smart, and he had desires to make things happen for the community, for Christendom. And he left a legacy here in Branson, Missouri, because people knew Rory Lynn. And he had the most wonderful write-up in the papers, about 3 pages long, about Rory, and so and how he was loved. So there was an injustice done to him and to many, many others, like this book, Edward Dowd, who wrote, So it's crimes. It's a crime. It's all crimes.
Yeah, we've been walking around in a daze, Polly. It's been a real nightmare for us, as I've said, but it's a difficult process because it happened to us. It was a shock to us. We didn't expect this to happen, and it changed our life completely around. But there is no guidelines for this, but we've been trying to find everything we can. We pray all the time, and we try to find out what we can do, We build little chapels for the homeless and the veterans, and we're building one now. Right now, we have a veteran working over at the prototype on our property. He's building a Rory Road for people to have a prayer line, a prayer walk. But our next one we've built 3 so far, but our next one's going to be at the Patchen Plain, Arkansas, and we're going to have a memorial plaque in honor of Rory Lynn. So his legacy will live on.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you both to do something now that might be hard, but I think it's very important. I want you to speak directly to Moderna, and I want you to speak directly to the person who gave the shots, because they didn't read the insert properly. He should never have had it. And tell them exactly what they have taken from you both, what they have done. They've taken from your life by taking Rory.
Well, it's been something that should not ever happen, and I don't know why Moderna and the government decided to push this along so quickly, because they didn't have a chance to, or they didn't take the time to actually find out about this, and if they did, they certainly didn't let anybody know. So we know that it wasn't something that was tested the way it should have been. So, and we understand that Moderna is probably the one that has been the one that has caused the most problem, I would say, because that's what I've heard. But like I've said to you, Polly, it's like it's a walk that we never thought we would ever have to take. But God has His reasons. There's a plan, I'm sure. But that's what I want to tell Moderna, is that I just don't think, and I know that they didn't test this properly. They didn't take time to test it, and it has created way more problems than we're hearing about.
And the VA is the VA, and they do what they want to. They had no right to not listen to the guardians appointed by the court, who, for his welfare and his mental health and his physical health, we were to govern what should and shouldn't have been done as his parents and guardians. We told them, 3 doctors, don't give him the vaccine. He has a blood clotting disorder. I took the medicine to them that he was taking for the blood clot, called nattokinase. Our doctor gives it to us for our problem. But from a mother's heart, nothing hurts worse than to lose a child. And a baby or a grown person is always going to be your baby. And what these people and these companies and these greedy organizations did to me was take my son and broke my heart.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
It's your
and
baby.
they didn't, like I say, take time to really understand what this was supposed to have done. And we receive all kinds of stuff in the mail from these vaccine companies. It seems like that they just continue to try to get the American public or society, and perhaps people all over the world, to go ahead and do this and take the vaccine, regardless of what it'll do to you.
What is your advice to somebody who may be watching right now that is about to go and have a booster because they've listened to the television and they're scared, they don't want to die of COVID or whatever, the latest variant? What do you say to them?
Don't take the vaccine. Don't do that, because it can kill you. It can also hurt you very badly. And we're not hearing about all of that that's going on. And I know it's happening because it happened to us.
Our doctors told us, if you've had the first one, the second one, whatever you do, don't get the booster, because the booster has something in it that's like that. I mean, that's whatever is poisoning the system.
We don't know. We don't really know that because we're not, medically. Linda's more medically involved than I am, but we do know that there's a lot of things that have not been told to us, and we do know that there's a lot of things that are hidden, and we do know that this was not tested the way it should have been.
So
we do know that.
He had a military burial with honors, and no longer will he walk in the back door, and say, "Mom, what's for dinner?"
That's right. Yeah, and it's something that we've tried to suppress, or at least I have. Linda hasn't, because she cries all the time. But I've tried to suppress it. But I'm learning that that's not what to do, because I have so many things that remind me that. But I don't want to lose that either. And I would suggest, and I've been told, that you don't want to forget anything about your loved one, because you want to remember those things.
Well, I'm going to write his name on the bus, and I'll give him a number and I'll write his name on the bus. What else would you like me to write there on behalf of you? I'm going to write that it was Moderna. Is there anything else you want me to write there from you both?
Well, from my point of view, and my wish for everyone, do not get the vax. Do not get COVID vax.
I would suggest that, because I have people around me right now that are understanding this, I'm talking about people that didn't believe us before, but they're understanding that they don't really want to take a vaccine at all, not the flu vaccine, not anything, because it's gotten to the place where we don't trust that.
Our two doctors, our main doctors, they're very big time doctors in Branson, Missouri. Both of them said, you know, if you take the vaccine, you're not going to be here very long. The booster is the one that has the most poison, and don't do it. It causes inflammation in the body. And we're human beings. We can only handle so much inflammation.
Is there anything else you want to add to this story? Tell the people.
Well, follow the Lord. The Lord has a plan, and that's the big thing. You know, I don't know what that plan is because it hit me and Linda right between the eyes. We're not sure. We've worked all of our lives, or at least our adult lives, in trying to reach people to let them know about the gospel and let them know that that's very important in their lives. So we want to make sure and make people aware that that's number one. I don't know what we do without Christ to lead us.
You know, both of you are you're doing the right thing because you're speaking out about it. And there are so many other people, tragically, that are also suffering. They've lost their children or their loved ones through the shot or through the hospital protocols. And it's been an almighty killing of so many. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's what it's been. I can't imagine your loss. So what they've taken from you is not just the pain in your heart, but they've taken your Christmases, your Easters, and all the other things that you celebrate, because he should be there with you, not.
That's exactly right. I was just thinking yesterday, I don't know that I'll cook a turkey because Rory won't be here with us, you know.
Yeah. All those things that people take for granted, everybody listening with your children, you know, it's unbearable. It's the worst, everyone's worst nightmare as a parent, to lose a child that was preventable. So
what we're dealing with right now is final. You know, his grave is over about 5 miles from here. And we go over and we're ordering the stone. It takes a year to get a stone for some reason. But Rory always wanted to sing, "What a day that'll be when my Jesus I will see, when he takes me by the hand and takes me through the promised land." And that's partly going to be on his stone, his picture, and then the chapel that we build that he loves so much, and then that song title. So what a day that'll be. And he gets to do.
And he was working on that. He wanted to sing that one.
He was working on it. So now all of his friends are singing it for him.
No.
So, you know, his friends are singing it for him. And then we had one of Rory's best friends play it and sing it at his service. But he was a very loved young man. And it's terrible injustice and crime to not have him here in this world, in society, to do what God had planned for him to do.
Holly, I want to add this. We really appreciate you and love you all for what you do. And thank you so much for this. And I got a chance to meet Sawyer a while ago too, and I really appreciate him. He's the engineer there, and I just love him and you guys so much.
I'll tell you one thing I've learned being out on the road on that bus is that America is full of beautiful, good people, and we must never forget that. They don't tell us that on mainstream. We don't see it, but I can tell you this: there's way more good in America than there is not. And the other good thing about our faith that the three of us do have is that we will see Rory again. And that's what keeps you going. We will see him when it's our time. We will see him again. So it's just painful while we're still here to miss the people we love so much.
Yes. It's very painful.
We believe that. We agree. Thank you.
Well, from everybody at Children's Health Defence, we send so much love to you both, and our viewers will be sending you love as well. And just know that Rory will not be forgotten. And I will put a picture of him as well on the bus inside our memorial section. I will write his name, and I will write that we're so sorry that this happened to him. And again, so much love to you both. And I pray that your grief the pain is not too sharp for you as we go forward.
Thank you, Polly.
God bless
Thank
you.
you. God
All
bless
right.
you.
Much love to you both.
You too.
Love you
Thank
too.
you.
you like to join me singing? Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away, but there's something about your name.
I cannot possibly imagine fighting for freedom without CHD-TV. I think CHD-TV is one of the most significant powers in the world. I used to have a pastor say, if we can face it, God can fix it. And, you know, I think of Soleri as a purveyor for truth, but without CHD-TV and the food and health and regular freedom areas, I can't imagine doing this without you. So it's kind of like, you know, if without CHD-TV, it was like having a leg cut off. Don't amputate the freedom movement. Put one of my favorite lines in the movie Patton is, you know, give George a headline and he's good for another 60 miles. You know, please put gas in CHD-TV's tank. I really can't, you know, if you want to be free, if you want to own your property, if you want to have property rights and human rights, wow, this is an outstanding investment, outstanding return on investment. This is a group of people with a little bit of money can rock and roll for freedom.
My name is Cynthia Kalixuk Torres.
And you are?
Alicia Kalaksik.
So this is your husband, your dad.
My dad.
And there's more of you, more siblings. How many of you are there?
We are 5 total siblings. I'm
Okay.
the oldest.
So
yes.
the first question is, did he have the COVID shots?
He did not have the COVID shot, and that's why we believe that, you know, he was discriminated when it came to healthcare. We believe he was denied medical care. He had gone to the hospital first when he was diagnosed. He wasn't feeling very well, and then 3 more times, and was finally admitted on the 4th time, right?
Okay, wait, let me go back. So he did not take the COVID shot. Why?
Why? Because he had type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And just general belief that it wasn't safe.
Okay, and so what made him go into hospital? Did he have that oxygen thing on his finger?
Yes.
Every time.
He couldn't breathe. He was having a hard time breathing. He's a very fit, a very fit man. He worked construction till he was 61. He just turned 61. And we couldn't visit him on his birthday because he had COVID. And very fit guy, very strong. Very strong. He carried doors and things like that. So for him to say he can't move, he can't breathe, he can't walk is a big deal. Huge deal.
So you got him into hospital, and did they ask him then if he'd had the COVID shots?
They asked him every time.
And do you feel there was some hostility towards him for that?
We believe so, because after he was finally admitted and then we could finally come in and be with him, they would harass the family. Are you vaccinated? Why wasn't he vaccinated? It was just this whole thing about nurses would ask us, you know. So it made me think, like, well, what does it matter? He needs help now. Aren't you, you know, what does that have to do with anything? He needs help. He needs, you know, attention. So we believe that the protocols were basically set up to...
Okay, so what year? We're 2021 did this happen? Or 2020? 21.
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes into hospital. Are you guys allowed to be with him when he's in hospital?
We're
Not in the
not
beginning.
allowed.
No.
Not in the beginning.
Not in
no.
the beginning. She had COVID. She had gotten COVID with him at the same time. Funny thing is, she was admitted. We have another sibling. She was admitted just fine. They're younger, healthier, which makes no sense. But he's older and is 60 years old and had type 2 diabetes, and it made no sense. They wouldn't admit, which feels like suspicious. Like, why not? It makes no sense. So at first she couldn't visit, and they told us, no, you can't come in, you can't go with him. So we were communicating via, phone, and a lot of that was through there. But eventually what had happened was he was still having a harder time breathing after he was admitted. It was about a week.
Not even.
And they were already starting to tell us he needs to be intubated. He needs to be intubated.
Did they remdesivir him?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. We didn't really know what that was. Now I know, But back then it was anything. My dad's like, look, I want to live. I want to live. He's a fighter. He's like, tell me what I need to do. And we wonder now if that was the best call.
Now, was he texting with you?
In the beginning, before he was intubated, and he was begging me to bring him home because they were doing nothing to him.
So he's begging you to take him home,
Yes.
and you couldn't?
I couldn't because I was with COVID in first place. Second of all, I was believing that if he get oxygen,
He'll be okay.
that he will be better there than at home.
So what kind of text was he writing to you?
That was more than texting, was calling. He would call and said they will not give me anything. They're not treating me. They will not give me water or food. Nothing.
So no
They will
water
not- they
and
will not
no
come to the
food.
room even.
No, they wouldn't come to.
They wouldn't answer his calls for help.
So they were starving him and not giving him water.
Which I've had a mother-in-law be in the hospital, and I know that sometimes they worry with lung issues about aspirating, but I also know that there are things you could put in water so they could drink to make the water thicker, and so this didn't make sense.
So he knew that he will end his day there if he stayed there.
But you couldn't get him, even though he was begging you to.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
Well,
They vented him.
They vented him.
yeah.
They were monitoring the situation for about, 1, 2, 3 days or something like that. We were a lot of siblings. We have spouses. So there's a lot of people on his side, on our team. And we were constantly monitoring him, calling doctors, nurses, what does his stats look like? What is he doing? How is he doing? What was weird is this one night, no nurses call, and we hadn't heard from anybody until the next day at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because we were harassing them all day to speak to somebody. We want to know how he's doing. Nobody would return our phone calls. Turns out that night he had an episode of some sort. Nobody really knows what happened, but we believe fentanyl fried his brain, because up until then he was still responsive. He was still communicating, and he was fine. And then we got so angry. We're like, how come nobody called us to tell us anything? This is fishy. The fact that you guys are hiding and not even being upfront, it looks like you guys are guilty of something because you're not communicating, And so we found out who the nurse is that was with him. We tried to get to talk to her. We finally got to talk to her, and she's like, oh yeah, he was on these drugs, blah blah blah, but this is what happens. This is what happens with people in the vent. They fight the vent.
They tie his arm and legs so he will not move.
So he's in 4-point restraints.
Yes.
Poor
He
guy.
was restrained while he was
And you've got these hospital records now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And can you see that? Is it written in there that he was struggling and fighting and they had to sedate him?
I haven't looked.
I haven't looked.
I
You need to
can't
look
bring
at that.
myself
It's the
to-
same thing every time.
But yeah, they admitted later that they overloaded him with strong
Yes.
sedation medicine.
We had a phone call that we had a neuroscientist, friend of the family, be on a phone call, and she got it out of them that it was a fentanyl overdose, and she said to them, well, why didn't you give him the fentanyl reversal antidote, right? And they were just dumbfounded. They had no answer because they didn't expect her to know so much. She was just a family friend, and they were just dumbfounded. And but yeah, we have proof that that's what happened, because the brain scans show that his brain was cloudy, and they want to blame COVID, but
Well, actually, they did. COVID was the cause of that foggy brain.
yeah,
On the death certificate. Unvaccinated.
yeah. So that was weird. And what else?
So when were you called in to go and say goodbye?
We actually, after the incident where he goes under, our family starts raising up a stink, and we were like, we gotta be there. We don't trust you guys. We have no faith in you. We don't know what you're doing. You're not being honest with us. So we started demanding for us to be there. Finally, I think first you were there in the beginning, and we started sitting vigil with him.
But
But that was during the day, during visiting hours. And then what happened is she had just left. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, end of visiting hours. My dad, something happens that he starts struggling again, and it was a scary episode right after she leaves too, which is weird. And they didn't tell you till the next day, and we're like, again, you don't tell us what's going on. You don't communicate that he's struggling. We want to know, good or bad. We want to know everything. We care about him. And so, I'm sorry. And so she raises up a stink with my sister, and that we decided there as a family, we're gonna sit with him 24/7. Too bad, tough notes. Sorry. We're gonna go and we're gonna sit. And so we took turns. My mother, all of our siblings, our spouses, family friends, church friends. We sat with him for 5.5 months, 24/7, and we were like, you're not hurting him again. We want to know everything you're doing, why you're doing it, and we're in constant communication as to how he's doing. Consistently, they were asking us to let him go. It was nonstop.
I will go back to your question when they said to say goodbye to him. And that is kind of crazy because I now realize because you asked. But from day one, when Dr. Moore called, he sentenced him to death when he said we have to agree to put him on intubation. Yes. So when they were preparing him for intubation, they called video call from the hospital to talk to him and kind of say whatever we need to say as a family on video call. And I remember talking to him, and my kids were talking to him, and he was saying something, but they will not put the phone close to his mouth so I can hear him what he was saying. So that bothers me till today that I do not know what he told me, what was his last word to me or to us. But Dr. Moore says he will not survive. He will pass with intubation or whatever you do. He will die. He sentenced from day one that my husband will pass. So that call before intubation actually was the last goodbye, because after that he never came back. He was physically alive, but not here. Maybe he was in and out. We don't know, because he was brain dead.
So in the medical notes that you now have after his death, can you see the concoction they gave him of fentanyl and others?
Oh, there is many,
so
many,
much.
many.
But the main ones that we saw, that a friend of ours, the neurological friend of the family, the scientist of the family, she said lorazepam, which is a benzo, fentanyl, which is an opiate, propofol, and there was another, a D one, I forgot. Sorry.
But it was just a cocktail of death.
It
Oh
was
yes,
constant.
many at the same time. All at the same time.
She got angry, and I didn't comprehend, because, like I said, she was talking on the phone with the doctors
In front of us.
and with us.
We have on record that, by
Yeah.
the way.
You've got her on record?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I didn't understand what she was saying, because a lot of it's medical lingo and I don't comprehend it. And then I contacted her and I said, can you explain to me what, I don't get it. She's like, Cynthia, the thing is that this cocktail, specifically lorazepam, is a benzo. Fentanyl is an opiate. Propofol is an anesthetic. She says, this is exactly the cocktail that they give to somebody before you perform execution, to physically and mentally and everything just paralyze them. She's like, this is not how it's done. It's not not that this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's done because it's protocol, right? But
Actually, there is the medicine that it has the name paralytical.
to paralyze, right?
Yeah.
There's another one too.
That was given to him too.
There was so much I was given, and I think the thing that bothered us is that my sister started noticing about the vent, how often, we'd hear the vent go beeping, and they would blast the vent on high with like 100% oxygen, and there's like all these levels. Towards the end, we started understanding that stinking machine, but it didn't seem like that. Why would you blast him if he just needs help? Because we wanted to get him off of it,
Right.
to get him breathing on its own. And there were some what do you call the lung specialists?
Pulmonology doctor.
Yeah, they got my hopes up. I was there when they were taking him off the vent, and he was breathing for like 5 minutes on his own, and I was elated, crying, happy, praising God because he could breathe, right? But he was under. He was no longer there. There were so many instances where I was there, and his trach was bleeding, and I'm telling them, like, this can't be good. He's probably aspirating blood. Can you help him? And it took a while for them to even say, oh yeah, we should come and help. And there was an instance where his eyes were turning red, just crazy bloodshot, and he was having issues with his eyes. And we keep telling the doctors, there's something wrong, right? And I told him, he's had severe allergies before. He has issues with his sinuses. This is all interconnected. He needs to looked at. They wouldn't even look at him. They wouldn't look at him.
No, we have to request attention.
What had happened was that he started, I was there, he started bleeding profusely through his mouth. I mean, it was like cups of water, they were cups of blood that they were suctioning out of his mouth, all draining from whatever was backed up in his eyes, that blood. To this day, we don't know what that's about.
So were you with him when he died?
We were all there as a family. He was already going under. He was suffering the last couple of days of life, and the last hours, we all managed to get there. All my mom and us 5 siblings.
Can you show a picture to our people of him? Let's see a photograph of him. And this is 2021 he died, or 2022?
22.
Okay.
This one or
Sure. Just want people to get a face. So we're going to get a picture of him.
but I also have
for the bus.
obituary. Yeah.
Obituary. Yeah.
Obituary.
You can-
Okay. Describe what they've taken away from your family by taking away your dad and your husband.
What they took away from our family was, when I first saw him in the hospital, what they took away from our family was the strong one.
Yeah.
The strong one. This man was a fierce fighter. He had, I don't know how to describe, he was so hardworking, and hardworking is not even the word, it's just work ethic. It's just constantly go, do, fight, do. And until he was gone, you don't notice how much energy
he will fight for a very strong family oriented to keep the family together all the time.
He was that. He was the family, the name, the family force, the family strength. That's how the strong one. So that's what's gone now. It's
like the cover that we have.
The cover.
With him as a family, they took it away from us. Vulnerable. We are vulnerable.
It feels that way, yeah. We still, this is his shirt, his work shirt.
He took my husband, took father of my kids, grandfather. Those little kids were praying for him like you have no idea how much they were praying for him. Madison, Maddox, Michaela.
Little Preston, his birthday was happening while he was in the hospital, and we were all crying and begging God. I think that's why my dad lasted for so long. Just prayers kept him alive. We were hoping for a miracle. I know it sounds ridiculous, but we were hoping that he'd wake up.
It's not ridiculous. We all believe in miracles. But yeah, a doctor, the last doctor, Mark, to me, because he even wrote it in his note. The wife believed in miracle, hoping that her husband will come back and will walk healed from the hospital.
Family's reluctant to basically acknowledge. And it's not that we weren't reluctant to acknowledge the situation. We're very aware of the situation.
Yes, but
it's just, since he's such a strong fighter, such a strong spirit, even if he's just awake, we were hoping for him to just at least wake up for a couple hours, just to see him, to love on him.
Yes.
To let him know that he was loved.
Yes.
He knows that now. Have you met other families that have gone through the same thing as you?
Not really.
Not really.
There's a lot out there.
We
believe that there is. We now are the only victim here, but
I just recently got a book about from Sheila Skiba, The Protocol That Kills, and that it's one of the first places that I started to realize, okay, this is not just our experience. Other people have experienced the same things. We reached out to lawyers to help us. We just, a lot of it's just over our heads. Like telling our story is the best thing, because we don't know the lingo when it comes to, the law or medical terms. or the protocols. What is supposed to happen? We don't know, and that's why a lot of this happened the way it did, because we were ignorant.
And to put it this way, he didn't die from COVID. He didn't die from COVID.
He died from his treatment.
Yet his death certificate says COVID.
Oh, of course.
Anything else you want to tell people?
Well, if anything, that will be hours and hours and hours of detail telling and 5.5 months worth of record, if anybody want to hear it and see it.
Yeah, you need to go through those medical records.
And
I guess if I would like to tell people is it go ahead and tell your story. There are other people just like you that we're not alone. Until that I read that book, I didn't realize how common this story is.
yes,
And we need to start raising up a stink. I know it's probably like a David and Goliath thing where we feel like we're less than, and there's these hospital giants that we're facing, but we have the truth on our side.
yeah.
We have the truth on our side, and this isn't just.
Even if justice doesn't come from the system, world system, still there will be justice one day that will come from God. That is something that nobody will be able to escape. So I get personally console on that I say God still is on the throne and sitting on the throne and sees all what is going on. One day we will get justice. One day.
Thank you both for telling the story. I'm sorry this
Thank you for
happened to you.
listening.
My name is Daniel Rodriguez.
My name is Isaiah Rivas.
My name is Itzaida Garcia.
And this is about your mum,
My mom, yes.
your sister,
Twin sister.
twin sister,
Yes.
My sister.